this was probably, well, we moved from Wichita Falls back here because my father did work for a lumber yard, and he also did some insurance adjusting to, insurance adjusting on, because he did know all about that sort of thing, since he's had the lumber yard. And but other people were, well, there were many of them that committed suicide during the Depression. And of course it was awfully hard. My father really had trouble making a living, and we moved from a very nice big home at Wichita Falls, started living in apartment houses, and anyway, it was a struggle for them, and that's when I started
working, delivering
too.
the newspapers, magazines.
Mm-hmm. And
So,
people, well, the young people that we were associated with, the ones that I had made friends with, were all very good people. But there were a lot of people who did things then that they wouldn't think about doing. There were many thefts and that sort of thing. You had to be careful, whereas before, you trusted everybody. And during the Depression, we had to be a little bit more careful about what we did and hang on to our things.
Of all the people and stuff that both of you had seen during the Depression, what is the greatest memory that you have that just kind of shows what the Great Depression was about? Like, it was depressing, it was a terrible time, nobody could really get a lot done. So what is a memory you have that kind of reflects what was going on, both of you?
As far as the greatest thing was, everybody was in the same boat. There were no rich people as far as we were concerned, and there were long lines of, for example, at St. Anthony Hospital, we had bread lines, long lines of people that they would go down there to get something to eat.
Yeah, they fed them.
And
Had to.
I think that was probably the thing that was the most impressive to me.
How long were these
But
lines?
I think, well, I went to work for this drugstore across the street, and I remember the pharmacist came in one day and he was in tears. He said he's just going to have to quit work because they were going to cut his salary from $20 a week to $18 a week. And that was his salary, and he was a well-educated pharmacist. But of course, we did many things then. I mean, you could do it without money because people didn't have money.
Nobody had money.
What are some of the things that you could do without money?
Well, we had all kinds of physical activities. We continued to play ball and we had our activities in school.
Yes. Okay. Another thing we've been talking about in my class is another thing we've been talking about in school is the importance of radio and entertainment and things in the 30s that kind of lifted people's spirits. What would you say about that? Would you say that helped, or like what were some of the things you listened to on the radio that you can remember?
The first thing that I remembered about radio was hearing about Lindbergh crossing the ocean in 1927, and I will always remember the reports of Lindbergh. But we didn't. We of course had no television at that time. Television didn't come along until later. Well, I do remember as a Boy Scout at the First Presbyterian Church, we went in one day and one of our programs was, they said, go into the next room and watch this box. And someday this is going to really be something. They came from WKY and said, someday people will be watching these. And they showed a program from the next room that was the preceding the television.
That's
And
cool.
I was probably 12 or 13 years old then.
Yeah.
They had no television, of course.
Yeah. When do you remember seeing your first movie? Because those were also, we've been talking about movies and plays and things that communities would do together, like put on plays or like readings of little scripts or things, like community things. Like, what do you remember, like the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about that?
Well, of course, everybody went to church, or at least all of my friends went to church, and we at the church we had ball teams and had parties and dances and with
The youth group, yeah.
and that of course is where I met Marion, and then well, I was in high school at the time, and I thought, after delivering papers as much as I did, I thought I wanted to be a sports writer when I got older, and I even talked to them at the paper about writing sports at high school, and I thought I wanted to be a journalist. I didn't know just anybody could go to medical school because I had no relatives that were physicians. I just knew about medicine and thought that would be a good thing to do because you could make a living and do some good at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided that I would not be a journalist.
Yeah.